Real Madrid don't do rebuilds the way everyone else does. When they fall short, they don't usually think small. They think bigger than anyone. And right now it feels like we're watching the early stages of another Galactico project. A project built around superstars, blockbuster signings, and the ambition to put Real Madrid back on top of European football. Over the last few days, we've seen extraordinary claims from Real Madrid presidential candidate Enrique Riquelme, who publicly promised to bring both Erling Haaland and Rodri to the Santiago Bernabeu if elected. Manchester City immediately denied the claims. Haaland's camp denied any agreement existed, and City even stated that they were considering legal action over the use of the player's image. So are Real Madrid genuinely building a new generation of Galacticos, or is this simply election season chaos? Let's talk about it. The original Galacticos. To understand why these rumours matter, you have to understand Real Madrid. This is the club that signed Figo, Zidane, Ronaldo, Nazario, Beckham, all within a few years. Real Madrid have always believed that the biggest club in the world should have the biggest players in the world. This philosophy has never really disappeared. It's evolved. Instead of signing stars in their prime, Madrid began signing the new next generation before everyone else. Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo, Jude Bellingham, and eventually Kylian Mbappe. Now the question is, what's next? Form has been down, and there's been rumblings amongst individuals in the camp. Real Madrid definitely need a rebrand. Why Haaland makes sense. Now let's separate reality from fantasy. As things stand, Haaland's representatives have publicly denied any agreement with Real Madrid. Manchester City insists that there is no clause allowing such a move and have completely rejected the claims. But let's talk football. If Madrid were ever given the opportunity to sign Haaland, it would make sense, because there is no striker in the world quite like him. Mbappe attacks space. Vinicius destroys defenders 1v1. Bellingham arrives late into the box. Haaland finishes everything. It's almost unfair. The scary part is that Haaland is still only entering his prime years. Signing him wouldn't simply be about goals. It would be about securing the face of football for the next decade. Here's the unpopular opinion. Rodri might actually be the smarter signing, because while Haaland grabs headlines, Rodri solves problems. He's the metronome, the controller, the player who dictates games. Yes, the former Ballon d'Or winner's form hasn't been great, but let's be honest, he's still Rodri. Real Madrid have plenty of exciting midfielders. What they don't necessarily have is another Rodri, a player capable of controlling an entire match through positioning and intelligence. Riquelme publicly claimed Rodri would play for Real Madrid if he became president, but at the moment, there's no indication from Manchester City that such a move is close. Rodri remains under contract and focused on current commitments, but from a football perspective, you can absolutely see why Madrid fans would dream about it. Now here's where things get really interesting. While everyone has been talking about Haaland, Rodri and even Konate, there are growing reports that Florentino Pérez has a completely different target in mind. A so-called Mr. X, a player reportedly worth around 150 million euros, and according to several reports, it's not a Premier League player. That immediately changes the conversation, because if you look around Europe, there aren't many players outside England who would justify that kind of fee. Which brings us to PSG. But here's where the story takes another twist. For days, fans have been trying to figure out the identity of Florian Perez, so-called Mr. X. The mystery player reportedly worth around 150 million. At first, many believed it could be Vitinha. Others pointed towards João Neves. Some even suggested Desiree Doué. But according to fresh reports from Telegraph, Diario AS and Fabrizio Romano, the strongest candidate now appears to be Bayern Munich star Michael Olise. And honestly, the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. Because if there's one area Real Madrid still haven't completely solved, it's the right wing. Mbappe prefers the left, Vinicius prefers the left, Bellingham operates centrally. A player capable of stretching defences, creating chances and adding balance to Madrid's attack. What's really intriguing is that Florian publicly denied Olise was the target. Yet multiple reports since then continue to point directly at the Bayern winger as the leading candidate. And it's easy to see why Madrid are interested. Olise isn't just productive, he's one of the most exciting attackers in world football. Creative, technical, unpredictable, nonchalant, the type of player who can decide a Champions League tie with a single moment of brilliance. In fact, reports suggest Perez was particularly impressed by Olise's performance against Real Madrid and views him as a player capable of becoming one of the faces of the next generation. The problem? Bayern Munich don't want to sell. Club figures have repeatedly described Olise as untouchable, a cornerstone of their future project. So even if Madrid really are preparing a €150 million bid, getting Bayern to agree could be the hardest part of the entire deal. But that's the thing about Real Madrid. The Galacticos were never built by signing easy targets. They were built by signing players everyone thought were impossible to get. This could be the first true Galactico chase of Madrid's era. Konate joins the conversation. While the Haaland and Rodri stories remain highly speculative, one move that appears significantly close is the arrival of Konate. If completed, it would address one of Madrid's biggest needs, defensive stability. For years, Madrid's attack has received the attention, but dynasties aren't built purely on goals, they're built on foundations. Look at the great Madrid teams, look at the great Barcelona teams. Elite defenses matter. Young enough to build around, experienced enough to contribute immediately. Dumfries, the second piece of the new Real Madrid machine. The next most important signing might actually be the one receiving the least attention, Denzel Dumfries. According to multiple reports, Real Madrid have agreed a deal to sign a Dutch international from Inter Milan, with Fabrizio Romano reporting that the agreement is done and the club will trigger his release clause. Ronald Koeman has even publicly suggested the move is effectively completed following a medical. Is this substance? This is where debate becomes interesting, because football has changed. The original Galacticos generated incredible marketing power, but they didn't always generate balance. There were periods where Madrid had more superstars than solutions. Modern football demands structure now, pressing, athleticism, squad depth. That's why Real Madrid's current approach feels different. If they pursue players like Haaland or Rodri, it isn't purely about marketing. It's about adding specific elite pieces to an already elite squad. Could they dominate Europe again? The frightening answer for rival fans is yes. Not because of one signing, not because of one election promise, because Madrid already have the foundation. They already possess young stars. They already have global appeal. They can attract players better than anyone else. But the club does need to upgrade. Even if Haaland never arrives, even if Rodri never wears white, the fact that people can genuinely imagine it tells you everything about Real Madrid's position in football. Right now, the Haaland and Rodri stories are far more political than concrete. Manchester City have denied them. Haaland's camp have denied them. There is no confirmed agreement in place. But deep down, you could see Haaland wanting to go to Real Madrid. He's wanted it in the past. But the bigger story isn't whether those transfers happen. It's what they represent. Once Real Madrid start to think about the future, they get what they want. They're once again thinking about dominance. Once again thinking about building a team that doesn't just win trophies, but defines an era. The first Galacticos changed football. The next version might already be under construction, and if Madrid somehow manage to add even one or two more world-class pieces to the squad, Europe could be looking at the next great dynasty. What's your thoughts, people? Comment below. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll check you on the next one. Bless.